Hello, listeners. Welcome to another episode of eCommerce. I'm really excited about our guest today, Adele Nasr from Adele Consulting Group. Adele, how are you?
I'm well. Thank you for having me. I'm very excited to be here.
Yes, I mean, you're all about marketing. I mean, I watch the things that you are doing and the level of professionalism that you are actually delivered to brands out there. And I thought that we must reach out to you and talk to you about marketing. And I know you also launched a new brand of your own, brand Synergy Pickleball. So I would love to learn more about that because I know there are some really unique things that are you have introduced over there. So Adele, let's start probably from introducing yourself and some of your journey, and you can start from whatever you feel is relevant.
Yes, thank you, Eitan. For me, my journey started, almost 22 years ago in agency side marketing. I was one of the early um, employees at the search agency, and I started there under the leadership of David Hughes and his team. And it was a very exciting time because back then it was Ask Jeeves, Overture, Yahoo. Google wasn't yet the dominant player. And so that set a really great foundation for me to really grow within the industry and to sharpen my expertise. And so I started as an intern while I was going to school for psychology, oddly enough, and then just worked my way up in the industry to where I am. From there, I went on to multiple other agencies where I helped build digital programs. One of the agencies, a notable one that I joined, was Integrated Media Solutions, IMS. They were bi-coastal Beverly Hills, Manhattan offices. And that was such a fun time in my early 20s. And they were a traditional agency. They did a lot of TV and offline tactics. They needed someone to help build out the search efforts. And I was known as an SEM ninja back then because it was still so new. So I helped come in and kind of add on those really great layers for the brands that they were working on, brands like Tempur-Pedic, Liberty Medical, very direct response brands back then that were changing the way we think about some of these areas. And that was part of my growth and evolution in agency side. I then went on to Web Metro, which then became Ravana Digital and helped expand their digital offering from SEM to include things like display, email, programmatic. I helped build a really phenomenal team there and bring on some great people. And then I moved on to client side or brand side, which was a huge transition. But at the time, my husband and I were starting our family, and agency side marketing, for those who know, it's almost like, and I'm not saying this to to my own horn, but it's almost like being a doctor. You're always on call. When you're managing 4 to 20 brands at any given time, they want a piece of you at any given time as well, and so they want full access to you. So I often found myself traveling all over the country to do QBRs and ABRs. I was constantly on phone calls and meetings, and that's hard to sustain when you're starting a family. So for me, the natural progression was to move brand side so I could really focus my energy and effort into one brand and do incredible things. And I just fell in love with it. I started obviously at 3 Day Blinds, where it was such a great time in the industry where we were doing, home services, but doing custom solutions. And it was a legacy brand that had been around on the West Coast for many years. I was able to come in and help with, a phenomenal team expand into a national presence. Um, I was then poached by the CEO of Home Franchise Concepts, which had brands like Budget Blinds, Tailored Living, Concrete Craft, and go and do that on a franchise level. And they had one of the largest home service franchises, and they really needed to amplify their digital efforts, but not just their digital efforts. They really wanted to bring quality leads to their franchisees. They had over 3,000 franchisees across the country. And so I helped install local marketing strategies that also supported our national advertising fund. So we were able to sandwich consumers from the local front to the national and really create this amazing surround sound approach that I love to lean into, but also focus on their needs, really put the customer first, think about their needs beyond just our service offering and our product and our brand. And I think that's something that became a love of mine, is this idea that the customer needed to be at the center and the idea that we needed to create connection with that customer. And that's what really, evolved into growth marketing with heart. From there, I was, wanting to get into e-com again a little bit, and Aventon was a up and coming brand. They were doing at the time fixie bikes, so they were very niche, but they wanted to break into electric bikes and really grow into an entirely new category that was also emerging during the pandemic. And so when you think about a brand that's so niche, that had been around for 10 years but hadn't really been growing very much, to be able to take them from a niche, fixie brand to an electric bike brand that became one of the top brands in the industry in 3 years, that was incredible. When so many brands were flooding the category during the pandemic, we were one of the brands that were able to rise to the top. And the way we did that is through the focus on the customer. We became so obsessed with making the customer journey seamless, giving them all the tools they needed to succeed, really ensuring there was a true understanding of the product, but not at a technical level. And I think that's the missing link. It was about just the fun of it, the love of it, the idea of changing your life by getting on a bike, or, shifting your mindset by, getting outside and exercising. And so we didn't focus as much on the technical elements of e-bikes because they were so new and there was so much information. It was more about just, let's get outside, let's have some fun, let's do what you do normally, but now take your e-bike instead of maybe getting in a car. And so that really set us apart, I think, from a lot of the other brands that were so focused on the technology in their e-bikes, because e-bikes were so new. And I think that really helped us connect with the consumer at a different level. And then from there, I just continued my journey and started my consulting firm, which I had been consulting on and off throughout the last decade, but really focused on building it out. And that really helped me then bring these services in a fractional capacity to many more brands. And so, full circle moment, started agency side and then kind of come back to that model a little bit. Except the difference with my consulting firm, it's really about supporting the brands with tools and strategy. I'm not necessarily doing the work, but I'm helping, train their teams, build SOPs, put OKRs in place, find the right tools, find the right partners. So my role is a little unique in that it's about finding ways for them to break out of any sort of, box that they're in, so that they can get to that growth, marketing with heart that I love.
It's amazing journey. I mean, if you want to build a marketing career, that's probably the right way to do that. Start with it on the agency side, because you get exposure to so many different things that on the marketing, you're working with all the various channels and experimenting with so many things. Obviously, growing to the brand side and bring your own unique way of how to innovate and how to do things. And now going back full circle with your agency, so really, really interesting. You mentioned customer focus, put the customer first, right? I mean, all the brands say that they want to be customer focused, and for any marketeer, I think it makes a lot of sense. So I'd like to learn from you what is for you being customer focused, and how do you able to align the organization to be more customer focused? Because I guess there are departments there. There are so many different people that have different mindset and different way of doing things. How do you can build a customer focused organization?
Yes, thank you. That's a really great question. I get asked that a lot. And the thing that is so important with customer connection is transparency. It's
Hmm.
being really transparent as a brand. I've worked with so many brands where oftentimes they're making changes on the back end, or they're pivoting, but not communicating that pivot or shift transparently. They're coming up with a canned marketing or PR friendly language. I'm all about just telling the customer as it is, right? Being very authentic in that way. So there are times, especially when I was in the e-bike space, where we had to be very authentic and transparent, and had to tell our customers the truth. When we were dealing with issues with containers being stuck on the water, or we were dealing with delays for their orders and their pre-orders were delayed, we were just very honest and raw about it. I think that helps build a level of trust that many brands are missing right now. So that's one layer to the connection with the customer. The other thing that puts customers first is think about them as a user that is using this product differently than you as an advanced user. So I think about every marketer and every person that's working on the brand side as an advanced user. As an advanced user, we have a very different perspective of our products. We have almost a too, technical perspective. And that is not how consumers consume our products. So when you remove that layer and you think about the consumer and how they're using the product at a simple level, I call it keep it simple, straightforward, right? Kind of evolving on that KISS strategy back from the old days. If you keep it simple, straightforward, you're ultimately going to connect better. So remove the complexity. Think about their end usage. Think about how they're using the product in their day-to-day life, and then make the message simple enough for them to be able to consume and connect with it. Just remove the veil of complexity, because that can oftentimes put consumers in a really tough space where they're stumbling on their decision. It creates a barrier to entry. It makes it really complex for them. You're overcomplicating the decision cycle. And that's just something that if you remove, you will see the ability you can unlock growth. And that's another way that I really put the customer first.
Yeah. So I think you mentioned the issue of discussing and creating marketing messages around the feature set and of the products versus the values and some of the pain points that the product solves. Probably speak and describe things in the language that our consumers are evaluating things, right? So how do you figure out the right messaging?
Mm.
Obviously, it doesn't have to be about the feature sets and about
Yeah.
the simple things that the product can do. Maybe it's relevant to some other stage of the funnel, but how do you identify the right messaging?
So fun. I love this because I believe there's such untapped data in our customer data set. So it starts with zero party data. It starts with surveys. It starts with NPS and really listening to your customers. So one of the things that I install in every brand is lots of surveys, lots of NPS, post purchase, pre purchase. I want to know what they want. Listen to them, ask them the question. You'd be surprised how willing they are to offer information.
Hmm.
Also, mine the data, mine your reviews, listen to the reviews. What are they saying about your product? Why are they saying that? And then make sure that's part of your communication strategy. Address those pain points, address those points, be very mindful of those things because they're so important. And so that's one aspect that I think has helped me make sure that we are speaking to the consumer. Also, something really important that a lot of brands don't think about is who is your lowest common denominator consumer? You have to start there. So there's always going to be an array of, advanced knowledge across the spectrum of consumers. Some consumers are very, thoughtful. They do a lot more research. They want more data, but the majority at a simple level, they're making a decision based on this more simple decision making. And so that's the lowest common denominator that you have to think about. Start there. And then you
Mm-hmm.
can build for all the other segments and more advanced users and build on the, more analytical or research focused consumer, but you have to start at the lowest common denominator.
Interesting. So you've been working with a lot of brands. What are some of the gaps in terms of knowledge or in terms of probably things that owners are missing when they come to define their marketing plans, and what are the major gaps that you see right now in the market?
So, the things that are missing oftentimes is zero party data. We're not doing that. We're also missing the ability to understand the competitive landscape. I see a lot
Hmm.
of brands really myopically focused on their own lane and what they're doing. But the cool thing about competitor data and the research that exists, if you do the work, or I call it competitive reconnaissance, is that you can unlock gaps. Those gaps can become the differentiators for your own brand. That helps you then create value or value propositions that are unique from everyone else in the category. So I think that's another area of opportunity. But I say this cautiously because I've seen a
Okay.
lot of founders go down the rabbit hole of obsessively focused on competitors. That can actually derail a team and it can be very negative. What you want to do is you want to do the research thoughtfully, consider the gaps, and then use those gaps to set yourself apart. But then stay in your lane at that point and really focus on doing it really well. And don't worry about what they're doing. Don't continuously try to pivot based on the competitor. Once you know your lane, once you know the gap that you're filling in the category, focus and do that really well. And those are, I would say, areas that brands can really focus to get better.
Yeah. I mean, if your competitor is doing something new, I mean, there's a lot of hype around it, and it seems that it's working for them, right? But it doesn't mean that it's working for you, right? So every brand is the same, and even if they're competing on the same products, even with the same audiences, there are a lot of brand sentiments on consumer side is different. There are a lot of unique stories that they need to build in order to differentiate themselves. So that's an important. So you talked about in our prep call about the ability of founders to establish good foundation for their marketing, right? Owned versus earned media. Let's talk about that topic a little bit.
Yes. So as I've been back into the consulting world and working with brands, I've found that one of the areas that is constantly lacking or oftentimes lacking is setting the proper foundation. And setting that foundation starts with your owned and your earned media. Starting with owned specifically, think about the content you're putting out. Think about the helpful materials. Think about documentation of your products and how consumers can easily find that. Think about FAQs, your emails, everything that you own that you're putting out in your own words, your tone as a brand really needs to be dialed in. It needs to be consistent. It needs to be really solid. And oftentimes when I join a brand, they're so focused on paid media as the leader, they neglect owned media. The owned content or owned channels are just not getting the love that they deserve because paid is driving the majority of traffic. Well, that's great. However, you really need to create that surround sound. We know decision making is not just a one and done. It's sometimes 7 to 30 touch points depending on your AOV, high consideration category. So that's why owned media is so important. It has to be part of the journey. And so it's as simple as being consistent with good quality blogs. It's as simple as creating a knowledge base that is easily accessible for your customers. It's as simple as making sure that you have really great evolving FAQs that are always being updated so that any question that comes up consistently with your customer care team is easily found online. It's those little things that can make a big difference. It's making sure that your emails are really dialed in, that you have solid flows in place, that you have campaigns that really address important topics. It's not just about a promotional email. Yes, we can send out promotional emails, but your emails should also be, because it's such an intimate communication channel, they should also be sharing information that's helpful to your consumer, right? Creating value beyond just the product or the sale. And so those are areas that I so often, you'd be shocked to know, are just not in place. And I often find that they need a lot of work. And then in terms of earned media, earned is just as important. It's the new way that that consumers consume reviews, and that's how they're getting feedback and building trust with the brand. So if your social media platforms are not set up and you don't have a strong presence, they're going to be weary of you as a brand. So you
Yeah.
need to think about all those different channels. You need to think about how you're perceived in social, but also beyond that, you need to also be mindful of how your users, your consumers, that UGC content is also presenting you. Does it match what you're saying? Because you might be shocked to know the way you present your brand is not necessarily how the users are actually talking about it. They
Yeah.
might be thinking about your products so differently than you. So your UGC, your reviews, all of those are so important. And so many brands just don't do that. I know when I first joined JoyJolt, one of the areas we were lacking, it's such a fun category. It's glassware, but we were doing so much with licensing. We didn't have user generated content as a focal point. The moment we amplified UGC, it unlocked so much growth for us on social media. It was such a
Hmm.
great tactic to really help build that trust and that connection with the consumer. And so just little things like that that really add up, so that as you're spending all this money on paid, now that touch point with paid and all the consecutive touch points they're going to have are really well dialed in, connected, that surround sound approach. There is information across their entire journey and they're not going to be confused. You're minimizing barrier to entry and you're really unlocking the door to more sales for the brand, but you're doing it in a thoughtful way where you're putting the customer first.
Yes, that's so important. I call it the word bank, right? I mean, your customers are talking a different way, not different, but maybe it can be different than the way you describe your product. So it's important to learn that the words that they're using, this word bank, is so crucial for any of the marketing
I love that. I
activities.
might steal that from you.
Go ahead, go ahead. And I might steal one from you. I know you're well known for your growth marketing with heart, right?
Yeah.
So please explain what do you mean?
Yes. So going back to some of the topics I touched on today, it's really about putting the customer first and making sure there's empathy from the brand. You know, empathy is such an important point in everything we do as a human, right? But think about yourself building a brand. Do you have empathy for your customers? Do you have empathy for the consumer that's on this journey to find your product? That empathy, oftentimes, if you tap into it, it creates this connection of the heart with you and your consumer. And that connection will make it so much easier for them to pick your product over other brands. And so that's what I mean when I say growth marketing with heart is you're doing
Hmm.
all this work to grow the brand. You're paying all this money for paid ads. You have the team, you're spending money on building amazing products, but are you connecting at a simple level? Is there a level of empathy for the consumer? And is that empathy being shown through your content? Is it being shown through your product? Are you taking the time to listen and dial in? And once you do, and once your content really resonates at that level and makes them feel something so deep,
Wow.
you will unlock so much more sales and revenue and conversions and leads and all the things that you're looking for.
Wow, that's super interesting. So empathy is about, I think it's very important. So I want to just zoom in on this empathy thing because I believe in this a lot as well. This is my style of doing things.
Love
It's
it.
like the ability to take someone else's perspective, right? To understand, to feel, probably understand and share some of your personal experience around that. Probably respond with your personal experience. And what is the meaning of empathy in marketing? You,
Put
you think?
yourself in your customer's shoes.
Hmm.
The meaning of empathy is simple. Put yourself in your customer's shoes.
Yeah,
Remove your advanced user mindset and just put yourself in their shoes,
it's not
right?
easy.
It's not
It's not
easy.
easy.
It's not, it's so
It's like
complicated.
the other way of the spectrum, and you have ego on one side and empathy on the other side, right?
It's true. And ego can drive building a brand, right? That's how
Yeah,
you start a brand. That's
sure.
you're passionate about something, but at the end of the day, to be a brand that lives on, that becomes a legacy brand that really has merit, that becomes one of the top brands, you need to put yourself in your customers' shoes. And I cannot tell you how complex this concept is, but also simple. So complex but simple. It's just about listening. It's about listening. It's tapping
Hmm.
into the information that you're hearing. It's from, to your point, the thinking about the UGC and the word bank and how they're using that information, thinking about your reviews, surveying them, asking them questions, and really listening to them. So,
Wow, interesting. So let's talk about Synergy Pickleball.
yeah.
Tell us about your new venture.
Oh my God, I'm so excited. My partner, our founder and CEO, is an NBA referee and official, and he's been in the NBA for many years, and he loves sports. And so for him, this was a passion project. He is also a very avid pickleball player. So when he was getting ready to start the brand, he wanted to find a partner in the space that could help really bring the brand to the masses and have that connection. And I was very happy to join and become a partner in this venture. And so Synergy
Hmm.
Pickleball is a passion project. It's not only the love of the sport, but it's also giving that sport and that love to others. So it's very exciting. And what sets us apart for Synergy Pickleball is that we're not doing everything that everyone else is doing. Yes, of course, we have paddles, we have balls, we have apparel, but we are doing something really unique and revolutionary in the category. We're offering a subscription program to those that love pickleball as much as we do. So think about pickleball in a way that you need to have fresh paddles every 6 months. You need balls
Hmm.
every month. You need apparel. You need to constantly be building upon your arsenal to continue to play the sport. And so our subscription program really unlocks a lot of that for them, simplifies the process. So you buy
Wow.
your paddle. You then every 6 months, we're going to send you a fresh paddle. In addition, every month, you're going to get a new ball supply. And you're also going to get 20% for life on everything on our site. So anytime you need fresh apparel or anything that you might need, you can just come back and buy it. Additionally, we're going to be doing lots of really cool value add for our customers that are, subscribed. It'll include, doing meets and greets with pros, doing training exclusive training events, hosting and sponsoring live Q&As just for them. Also, having a whole arsenal of partners that offer them discounts in complementary categories. So it's going to be such a, well-rounded program that we
Wow.
think there's plenty of value. And it's, the price point, we set it in at such a great point. So if you think about a paddle every 6 months and all you're paying is 29, I mean, that in and of itself is such a massive value. These
So that's the
paddles,
price, the subscription, 29?
29 a month, yes.
29 a month. Wow.
But you get so much for that. So
Yes.
I'm so excited. It's such a cool brand. We already have amazing partners and pros that we've lined up. Some of them have already, been doing lots of great competitions and winning some. So we encourage people that love pickleball just to follow us, see our journey. And if you're so inclined, maybe subscribe if you love pickleball as much as we do.
Great. Great. Adele, I'm very interested in work-life balance and how to do things in a smarter way, in a more, um, I would say, meaningful way or complete way, just to balance things and not push ourselves too hard. Can you share with us what do you do, like outside of work? How do you relax, unwind?
Yes, work-life balance is always a challenge. As a mom of two, I've got a 10-year-old and a 15-year-old, two
Hmm.
boys. I'm also, a sister, a wife. And for me, work-life balance is about quality of time. So when I'm with my family or with my children, I'm really taking that time to connect and removing distractions. So that's one area that helps me stay attuned to the people I love. Because at the end of the day, what makes us happiest is our circle of people, right? It's I call them my favorite humans. So my favorite humans are those that really just bring me joy. The other thing that I have really dialed in is scheduling everything. I live and breathe by a schedule. So we have
Okay.
a family shared schedule. I have my own personal schedule. Every child of mine has a schedule. I'm putting things on everyone's calendars, even our meals. When I cook, I try to cook every day. Cooking is actually a love of mine. If probably in another life, I would have been a chef, but it's fun for me. It's a hobby. So I try to cook every day for my family and cook really good quality food, just like my parents growing up. They were restaurateurs, and I got to, go from school to the restaurant and work and see them do that. So
Hmm.
it was a love for me to grow up eating home cooked meals and really good food. And that's what I want for my family. So even the menu is scheduled. The family knows I menu plan in advance. I take Friday, Saturday, and Sunday to do our meal planning and prepping. And so all of those things really help me balance everything out because I am very busy. I am doing so much, but it's those simple things that really help me balance things out. Uh,
Wow.
and then and then just when you do have that time with people that you love, making sure that I remove distractions. So it's really important to me to remove the phone. I don't like if I'm out to lunch with a friend or at dinner with my husband, my phone is not on the table. And I see that a lot. So for me, the phone can become a huge distraction. So I do try really hard to set it aside so that I can have that balance.
Wow, great tips. Great tips. So when you spend time with your family and your friend, just focus on that.
Yeah,
Get rid of all the distractions, right? Right.
100%.
Second thing is planning, right? Plan everything, have it lined up and scheduled and aligned with the other family members as well, right? And just be focused, giving them the right attention that they deserve. So, wow, great tips. Thank you so much. And Adele, how people can find you and Synergy Pickleball? Please share all the details.
Yes, yeah, they can find me on LinkedIn. I'm very active there. I would love for people to follow me. I write a lot about topics similar to what we discussed. They can email me at adele.d.nasr@gmail.com. I'm happy to get back to them. I'm also on Synergy Pickleball is at Synergy Pickleball on Instagram, on TikTok, YouTube, so they can follow us there and also Adele at Synergy Pickleball. If they are curious about learning about our products or want to ask any questions, they can email me there as well. But I very much love when people reach out to me, and I love connecting with people, so I encourage it.
Great. And we will add all these links and contact information in the show notes. Adele, it was really a pleasure. Thank you so much for all the great knowledge and marketing wisdom. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. This was so fun. I'm glad I was able to join, and I look forward to listening to more of your amazing podcasts. So thank you for doing the great work.
Thank you. Bye bye, Adele.
Bye.